It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And this is CarEdge Live for Friday, February 27th. That would be Feisty Friday, ladies and gentlemen, with your hosts, me, Ray, here in Ventnor, where all the snow is melting, and Zach, back in D.C., waiting to be able to use his bike again. What's going on, handsome?
Pops, I ran 10 miles this morning, so I don't know. It's beautiful out. We're getting busy here, moving around. It's almost warm. Today's show is brought to you by CarEdge.com. For those of you that are unfamiliar, 6 years ago, my dad and I started this company, and we provide, back at CarEdge.com, a car buying service that takes care of the research, dealer outreach, and even negotiation, where you learn what matters to you, contact dealers, compare real offers, and help you get the best deal without the stress. For those of you that are interested in our services, we have a promotion that is about to end. $200 off our car buying service and 20% off CarEdge Pro. We also have a new product in market that we're seeking your feedback on. This would be caredge.com/dealer-ratings. Please, y'all, go here, look up some dealers, look at some of the reports, do some research, share your feedback back here in the channel. The idea behind this project, is to identify dealers who are not necessarily that transparent. For example, this dealer that's adding add-ons to their vehicles, like a certification for $1,524 or platinum warranty for $2,495. You simply come here to CarEdge.com and you can see all of that information. So please share your feedback. We really, really appreciate it. Now, Dad.
Yes?
The big story this morning, just a few weeks after Ford announced that they were boosting company-wide bonuses as initial quality improves, we have one of the largest recalls in automotive history. Not cracking the top 10, but getting awfully close. Dad, Ford has recalled 4.3 million pickups, SUVs, over trailer brake and lighting, software error. This is one of the biggest recalls we've seen in decades from an automaker. I mean, you got to go back to the 70s for some of the other recalls that have been this many millions of vehicles. We're not on Takata airbag scale here of 100 million cars, but 4.3 million, Dad. And again, this is just coming weeks after Ford employees and executives got an increase in their bonus, as a thanks for initial quality improving. What do you make of this, Dad, and what's going on with this recall?
Well, it's actually 4.38 million, but who's counting? Listen, it's software. It's a software issue, and as long as there's been computers, there's been software issues. So this is not necessarily one of those situations where a bean counter said, well, if we paid 5% less for a certain part, it would save us millions of dollars. And then it turns out, well, when you pay 5% less, the quality is significantly below the savings, and it ends up costing you millions of dollars. This is a software issue. This is a computer issue. And anybody that's ever utilized a computer who has received the blue screen of death, or has seen the computer just absolutely freeze up and you have no idea why, that's basically what this is. So part of the problem is that vehicles have gotten too computerized, in my opinion, so that they can fall prey to software issues like this. Now, what's the issue? Well, there's a device. Oh, what the hell is it called? It's the ITRM. Okay. Yes. And you're thinking to yourself, what does that do? Well, that tells if you're trailering something, that tells it coordinates the brake lights and the brakes with the truck and the trailer. And sometimes it doesn't communicate, so that the truck, say you're trailering a 10,000-pound boat or something, and you hit the brakes in the truck, and the truck is slowing down, but it didn't trigger the brakes on the trailer because, well, they're just not communicating at the moment. Kind of like husbands and wives when they have fights, and the truck's stopping, the trailer's not. That could be an issue.
To your point, it is a software recall, so obviously it's going to be a software fix. but it has a mechanical impact on the driving characteristics of a vehicle, has a safety impact, etc., and it's
Oh,
impacting obviously
absolutely.
a massive number of vehicles.
Yes, and obviously the hope is that they can take care of it through an over-the-air update. And hopefully they can. And if they can't and people have to bring their vehicles into the dealership, well, that's good for the dealership because the service department will make money. But just so people understand, it impacts 2021 to 2026 model years of the Ford F-150. That's 2.3 million F-150s. It impacts 2022 to 2026 model year Ford F-250 Super Duties, just 1.13 million of those. It impacts 412,000 2022 to 2026 model year Ford Mavericks. It impacts the Ford Expedition from 2022 to 2026, the Ranger from 2024 to 2026, the Navigator from 2022 to 2026, and even the Ford E-Transit vehicle, the 2026 model year, that impacts 13,000 vehicles. So it has a huge impact, and there are any number of real issues that can crop up with this. And there's already been 405 warranty claims in regards to this situation. So it's a real issue. Hopefully it's a relatively easy issue to fix. Ford is allegedly going to start letting people know. They're planning on rolling out the fix starting sometime in May of this year. And in March 17th, they'll start letting people know that their vehicle could and very well might be impacted.
Dad, what does this say about buying those vehicles? Like, we've been talking about Ford forever because they have led the league, as we like to say, cheerfully, playfully. They've led the league in recalls, and it's not even close. Is this something, Dad, that Ford shoppers, obviously, we're describing here, it's software related. They, of course, will get a fix out there, but it's impacting, to your point, brand new vehicles. I mean, this is 21 to 26 of the F-150, the Mavericks in there, the Super Duties are in there. Should you still buy a Ford? Should you still buy one of these vehicles that's impacted by this type of recall? And to be clear here, we see different types of recalls. For example, it was last year that Toyota had to do a major recall because there was shrapnel in the engine. Totally different ballgame when we're talking about both are bad. I don't want to diminish that, but like totally different ballgame between the two. Does this influence, if you were in the market to buy a Ford right now, Dad, your thinking?
That to me makes me laugh, and I'll tell you why. Ford has led the league in recalls for like 5 of the last 6 years or something like that. And last year, the number of recalls that they had was 153 recalls. The previous record for recalls by a manufacturer in a year was 69 prior to that. So they more than doubled what the previous record had been. And you would think to yourself, when you're the league leader in your recalls for like 5 or 6 years in a row, and it's public information and it's out there, that you would think that would have an impact as to what people think when it's time to go buy a vehicle. The Ford F-Series pickup trucks are the number one selling vehicle in America, and have been for like the longest time.
Yeah.
So you asked the question, will that cause people to stop buying them? Apparently not, because Ford has led the league in recalls for the last few years. So, I see comments all the time on our videos about how like Stellantis is crap and Nissan is crap and Chrysler is crap. And how I would never buy a Chrysler or a Nissan or a Stellantis product because the quality is bad and it's crap. Well, those people must be buying Fords, okay? And the fact that they have issues doesn't seem to impact their buying decisions. And many of the comments are, well, God bless Ford. At least they're coming out and saying they're having a problem and they're going to take care of it. As opposed to, I guess they're thinking, unless the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration gets involved, all these manufacturers just won't take care of these issues. They will when they're forced to.
Yeah.
Most of them aren't doing this stuff voluntarily. So you would think it should have a negative impact on sales. You would think that. You would think people would pay attention to that. But apparently, in many cases, it does not, and people do not. And for the life of me, when you have all this information available today, I don't understand why people wouldn't pay attention to that. The fact that it's an over-the-air update, well, I'm just thinking that's got to be pissing off service managers at Ford dealerships all across the country, because if it's an over-the-air update, dealerships not collecting a dime for this recall. And trust me, service departments in many, many cases love recalls, mechanical recalls, where the vehicle has to be brought in, because the manufacturer pays pretty well to take care of those issues. And so, you're going to have unhappy service managers and service advisors. And apparently, you can have poor quality Ford products, and Ford people just don't care.
Yeah. And I think, Dad, to be clear here, there's a little bit of laissez-faire attitude in general towards recalls, because if you look at the list right now of who's leading the league in recalls so far this year, yes, it's Ford. And we did look at this the other day, and they were at 10, and now, of course, they're at 11.
Yes.
But that Hyundai's right behind them with 5, and Hyundai sales continue to grow. We get into a lot of RV companies and commercial vehicles as well. But you also have Toyota here, Dad, with 4 recalls so far this year. So GM with 4 recalls. It's people still buy these vehicles, and I think perception of the reliability is more important than even what the data shows. The perception of a Nissan versus a Toyota. It doesn't matter that so far this year, Toyota has 2 more recalls than Nissan. It doesn't matter. People still have that perception. So will this change, or should this change your buying decision of a Ford vehicle? No, it probably won't, probably shouldn't. I would actually go so far as to say that when Toyota had the mechanical recall of the shrapnel in the engine, that should influence your buying decision. Don't go buy, what was it, the V6 or the V8 Tundras had that issue?
No, I thought it wasn't it was it a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder? I think it was a 4-cylinder.
Could have been the 4-cylinder hybrid. And then it was also impacting the GXs, if I'm not mistaken. It was like, don't go buy those. Like, yes, have that influence your buying decision. Do not go buy a vehicle that's getting recalled for shrapnel in the engine and has to have the whole engine replaced. But over-the-air software fix for twin turbo.
Yeah, but you could say to yourself, well, look at Toyota. They're at least stepping up to the plate and taking care of it. Well, yeah, and are they
don't have a choice?
Voluntarily?
They don't have a choice, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a reputation for producing quality vehicles, and then you have an issue like Toyota had, well, you can't just walk away from that. You need to step up and do whatever needs to be done to keep those customers happy and to keep your reputation intact.
Dad, I might work on this over the weekend, because this is an interesting idea. From Daniel Dortons. Thanks, Daniel. NHTSA should reclassify recalls to separate OTA software update recalls from hardware updates. OTA software updates are no worries for most of us. I couldn't agree more. That's a point I was just trying to make with the Toyota one. I might build a little app over the weekend that does this, that classifies recalls to being either software with OTA, software that you have to go to the dealership, software with OTA, over-the-air update, or mechanical, because they are not apples to apples. A mechanical recall, you got this from Dylan here. Great point. I can live with software recalls. Truthfully, if I have to keep taking my car in month after month, I'd be pretty ticked off. Mechanical ones are a mess. We need a new classification for recalls, because they're not all made equal. That's a really good point from our community here, Dad.
Well, can I share something with you that I was thinking about?
Yeah, I'm all ears.
Because I love the new dealer transparency index that we're coming up with.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think legitimately, and I don't know if there's a way to do it, but you being the young techie and me being the old fart, you can school me on this. Is there a way to not only score the dealers the way we're scoring dealers, but score dealers on how quickly they provide the information requested in an internet lead. And what do I mean by that? If the internet lead is, I'm interested in this vehicle, this VIN number, and I need a complete breakdown of all the costs associated with that vehicle, is the dealer, how many emails does it take for the dealer to finally provide that information after they've said, hey, when can you come in?
Sure thing, Pops. I'll happily spend some time on that. But back to recalls.
Yes, I'm sorry. You know me, I get sidetracked, and it's just, it triggered something in my brain, and I apologize for that.
All good. But back to recalls, Dad. Should these things be influencing people's buying decisions right now for Fords? I think the general consensus for us is they aren't, and they probably won't, and they probably shouldn't. And that idea that you have around dealers is something I will absolutely run with. Shall we switch gears?
Before we switch gears, let me say this. There are any number of brands that some are thought of to be better than others. Okay. I used to represent a brand, Mini, that is thought of to be trash. Okay. I never had any issues, but then again, I always leased mine and I never kept them for more than 3 years. They were always under warranty when I had them. The reality is that people know certain brands have certain issues, and yet it has never stopped people from buying those vehicles that they know that will have these certain issues. So I guess the reality is, if I can sum it up in some way, the reality is that people don't care. Okay. It was known for years that the big joke at our Land Rover dealership in Scottsdale, in North Scottsdale, was, well, if our customers want to drive one every day, they need to own two, because one of them will certainly be in the shop. And so if the brand knows it and the people who buy it know it, and they continue to buy it, then the reality is they don't care. English cars, for the longest period of time, especially Jaguars, had electrical problems. Didn't stop people from buying Jaguars, didn't stop people from buying MGs and Triumphs and every other piece of crap that they produced. Because the people liked either the look or whatever it was about the car, and they bought it anyway. I mean,
yeah.
Fiat sold in this country for a long, long time. Okay. And those were some of the worst quality vehicles that the Yugo sold in this country. And that was the world's first disposable car. It was like the big click of automobiles. When it broke down, you just walked away from it. So it is, and people knew it at the time, because nobody was saying to themselves, the world's greatest automotive technology is it's all happening in Yugoslavia, because it wasn't. But people would buy them. So I guess it doesn't matter. Sometimes people plunk down the money, whether it be a lot of money in the case of Land Rovers and things like that, and they know it's a crapshoot and they're okay with it, or they plunk down a lot less money for a Yugo and they know that's a bigger crapshoot, but they do it.
You're funny, man. You're a very funny human being. All right, y'all, let's switch gears. We got another story we need to talk about, which is very interesting, and it has to do with the fact that there's consolidation happening in the retail automotive industry, and that is important for our community as you think about buying cars. Dealership buy-sell database updates. Penske buys 2 Lexus stores. Ken Graff Automotive sells Utah dealerships as part of deals tracked across 9 states. Here's the TLDR and why you should care about this, Dad. Dealership consolidation has accelerated 34% in 2025 to 2026 compared to the prior 2 years. That means, at least one of the things that I can intuit from that, is that smaller mom and pop dealerships are panicking. They're trying to get out of the business, and they're looking to sell to these big companies like Penske, for example. We know that this year is going to be a very challenging year in the auto industry. We know dealers and automakers are feeling some pain and some desperation after many years of making way more money than they had ever thought was possible. And now we're starting to see an early indication that there's some consolidation. And again, I think panic for some of the smaller mom and pops to say, you know what? I want to get out of the business. I'll let you, Penske, go figure it out. Asbury, Lithia, Group One, Auto Nation, you figure it out. I think that's really fascinating.
Well, for a lot of the mom and pops, and I've worked for mom and pops, and I've worked for Penske, and so I've worked both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
For a lot of mom and pops, the situation is that in many cases the original owner has children, and just because the owner was good in the car business does not mean just because he inseminated his wife that his children will be. Okay, it doesn't correlate. Oh, it just doesn't.
You could have just said just because they had kids. I'm just saying.
Well, you could say it like that. I say it differently. But the point is, just because you have a child doesn't mean A, they want to be in the car business, or B, that they'd even be any good in it. And I have seen any number of dealerships where the kids worked in the dealership, and it was painfully obvious, probably even to the owner, that the kid was no good at it. Okay? So if that's the situation where you have children that either aren't interested or aren't very good at it, well, then it makes sense at the end of your career to figure out who to sell it to. And so, Penske's looking for luxury stores because the two stores they bought, which are in Florida, were two Lexus dealerships. And the vast majority of the Penske Automotive Group dealerships are on the luxury side of things because there's more money to be made there. There's greater profits to be had there. So this type of consolidation is not surprising. What is surprising is how quickly it's happening and how quickly these groups are growing.
Yeah, if I may, Dad, I think your take is obviously interesting and it's informed from your own experience where I'm sure you've worked with the children of owners who founded their dealership groups. That being said, the story here to me is not that. That nepotism has happened in perpetuity in the auto industry, and that nepotism happens across a variety of categories and industries.
Yes.
It's nepotism, and it happens.
Yes.
Some might even say it happened here at CarEdge with my father as my but jokes aside on nepotism, Dad, the fact that we have a 34% increase in this active consolidation over the past 2 years, that to me is a signal of something going on more broadly. You and I both know this, and I think our community and audience knows this as well. Running a car dealership is very cash intensive. And so these dealers that are mom and pops getting out of this could be a function of, wanting to not be under the stress of having to make payroll every 2 weeks. And I'm not trying to say that dealerships are all in panic mode, but I think this could be an indicator that it's like, now's a good time to sell. Let someone else have to deal with it.
I think if you're a mom and pop dealer, you can look at your crystal ball and you can say to yourself, there are going to be major expenses that they are going that, and they being the factory, the manufacturer, the brand, is going to expect me to incur. It could be like, it seems like every 5 to 10 years that most brands come up with a new image program that the facilities need to look this way instead of that way.
Sure.
And that's millions of dollars. Or there's new tools, there's new computerization, there's new software, there's different vendors for your CRMs, and it's expensive. And if you don't have the money, or you have a limited amount of money, and you know the future is going to call for a lot of money in order for your store to continue to grow and be successful, well then in many cases they're going to sell to large groups that have the money, that have, one of the great things when these groups started was, well, they wanted the synergies and the savings of being able to put all these stores together and have less expense. That's BS, because you end up with the regional vice presidents and this and that and everything. But that's a story for another day. The point is that these large groups have large credit lines or sums of cash available to them, so that as modernization has to continue, they're in a position to be able to do it where the mom and pop might not have been. And many of these mom and pop stores might be somewhat underperforming because they haven't had the cash on hand to modernize. And once they get sold and the big group comes in and spends a few dollars, it can make all the difference in the world.
Let's come here down to the chat. Thank you for this, Rich. Appreciate the kind contribution. Go with the flow. Just Ray. A great parent are thee. I agree. My dad is fantastic.
Thank you. I try and put things in words that I probably shouldn't sometimes, and I apologize for that up front.
All good, man. All good. Again, folks, friendly reminder, we've got a new product in beta. It's getting tighter every single day. CarEdge dealer ratings. If you're not using this, I really need you to, so that you can leave some comments here in the chat and back on the comments, or email me directly, zach@caredge.com. From here, you can search for dealers. So here in Washington, D.C., we've got 139 dealers, or if I include my limited data, we've got 254. And from here, Dad, I can click into any dealer. I'll do this Alexandria Volkswagen. I can see what their dealer doc fee is. I can see what their add-on rate is. And I can see the average amount negotiated on a car deal by CarEdge. I can come down here and I can see this 2019 Acura MDX, for example. We had $312 in savings, $995 doc fee. We'll come to the original quotes. Drum roll, please. Yay, I love when it works. You can see the actual out-the-door price quote. Wow. Really good stuff here. So I really encourage everyone to use caredge.com/dealer-ratings, and please share your feedback. Again, back at caredge.com, without the dealer ratings, we have a promotion going on for another day or so here. $200 off our car buying service, 20% off CarEdge Pro. We would be nothing without.
Wait, we lost you. What happened to you? I think what Zach was trying to say before we lost him is we would be nothing without our community and without our audience. And I don't know why he would just cut himself off.
Hit the wrong button. Thanks for following me up there. Here we go, Dad, from Daniel. Thanks for this, Daniel. Really appreciate it. For mom and pop stores, not only the kids may not be good at, but sometimes the kid has no interest or desire, only wanting the money. Definitely.
I can, I have worked for mom and pops, and I have witnessed it firsthand. Where the kid is, the children are put in a position that they don't necessarily want to be in, and they might not mind being in the car business. They might just mind having to actually sell the cars to do it. And in many cases, what I saw were children that were more interested in the real estate side of things, trying to find deals in that way, but not necessarily happy or active or wanting to be active on the automobile sales side of things. So it's just, listen, at a mom and pop store, you can have an issue today, and you can have a meeting, and you can come to a conclusion as to how to solve it, and you can implement it today. At a large publicly traded store, you can have an issue today, and you can make arrangements to have conversations with those in senior management or regional management, say next week. And you can have that conversation and realize and agree that there is an issue, and that we'll put it into a committee to figure out how to solve that issue. And maybe 6 months from now, you've actually solved the issue. So there's good and bad with both. But let's face it, if you're the Penske organization or Sonic or Asbury or Lithia or AutoNation or Group One, you've got the capital wherewithal to do whatever the hell it is you need to do. It just might not necessarily be as timely as a mom and pop might.
We appreciate the kind contribution, Nathaniel, as well. Thank you so much for that. And we're going to end the show on this comment, Dad, from David. Was going to buy a 2026 Ford XLT, Ford F-150 XLT in March. Should I wait due to the recall? Should David wait, Pops?
No. Just don't tow anything.
Folks, we appreciate you tuning in. There's another fun week of CarEdge Live. We're back on Monday with more CarEdge Live. Please join us then. If you're not subscribed to the channel, we encourage you to do so. If you know someone who's going to buy a car, sell a car, insure a car, protect a car, whatever it is, tell them about CarEdge. We really appreciate it. Dad, it's going to be 65 degrees here tomorrow. Oh, I did want to tell you something. I got bit by a dog on my run this morning.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Do you want to see it?
Yeah. What kind of dog?
Tiny little thing.
Oh, those little bastages.
Okay, everyone's going to now know that I wore shorts for today's show. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if I can do this.
Where'd the little dog get you? Wow. That dog have its rabies shot?
I don't know. I didn't stop because I was like, I'm running. I don't want to stop. So I kept running. So now I have to go to the doctor, don't I?
Yeah, I would think you should. Yeah.
I don't even know how to go to the doctor.
And was the dog's owner there?
Yeah. And she was like, oh, and I just kept running because I was like, whatever.
Well, that's not good. You should have asked the owner. You know, if it was a tiny little thing, I'm sure the owner, after it bit you, could have controlled that little mutt. You know, and asked to make sure that it had its rabies shots and all that neat stuff. And
okay, if a doctor watches this later, comment, because I don't even know how to go to the doctor. I'm so embarrassed to say that.
Excuse me, I don't know how to go to a doctor. Excuse me, urgent care. Just go to urgent care. Say, hey, you know, on my way here, I was running and a little dog bit me. What do I do? You know, and yeah. You know, did I ever tell you when I got bit by a dog?
Yeah, you've told me about you being bit by a dog. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be 65 there.
Also, I would just like to say Justice on our Slack, which is what we use for internal communications. Dad messaged me already and he said, WTF, yes, you need to go get a rabies shot ASAP. And then Phil also messaged me and said, OMG, definitely get that checked out. So yeah, okay, I'll do it, guys. Jeez Louise. All right, I just wanted to sit here and work all day, but I'll go to the doctor.
Yeah, and then may I suggest, is DC an open carry city?
Dad, stop. Is rabies? I'm so naive. I need to do some research. I should be concerned.
Yeah, you should be concerned.
Okay.
Come on, you're
okay.
You know, yeah, you should be a little concerned.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm gonna go book an appointment right now.
Yeah, please, you know, because we want you here on Monday. We don't want you, you know, foaming at the mouth or anything from yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go book an appointment right now. Okay.
Yeah. And then
Justice is scaring me. He said if you show symptoms of rabies, it can be fatal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go do that. Okay, we're back on Monday. I'm gonna go book an appointment. Okay.
But
love you, Dad.
Carry a beanbag gun and stun those little suckers.